So we're looking at some figs here. These figs are planted in the ground. Now, because we are in a cold climate, these figs need to be protected over the winter. Why do they need to be protected? Because if we don't give these branches any protection, then the figs will die to the ground and they will have to come back up out of the ground the next spring. The reasons that's problematic is because there's not enough time in most of our cold climates for the figs that get produced on that growth to actually ripen. So we want to protect many of the buds that are on these branches, and we're going to look at how to do that in a second. That way, when the branch wakes up after having been protected, it will grow fast enough and vigorously enough in the early spring to ripen its fruit by late summer, fall. So what we're going to do here is protect these figs. Why have I chosen this location? Well, this is a west-facing location. It's not the best location. Ideally, you plant your figs in a south-facing location, but it's up against a house here, and we have a bed where we want something that grows 4 to maybe 6 feet tall and is going to look nice up against the house. Figs are blessed in that they have pretty much no pest or disease issues, so the foliage always looks really nice. So figs are a great one to have up by the house because of their ornamental value. That's why the figs were planted in this location here. To keep them coming back and looking good, we're going to start to bend these branches down. Now, the way that we do that is we take fig branches, which are super pliable, we're going to start bending them down to the ground, and then what I like to do is use heavy, flat rocks or stones to hold those branches down. Here I've got, for example, a heavy big stone. That way, when I take this branch and throw it on top of those, I'm able to hold that branch down. What I meant to say there was when I take that branch and I hold it down with a big heavy stone, now I've got those figs down to the ground. Why do I want them down to the ground? Because the earth is so much more insulative and stable as a thermal mass than the air. The air freezes much more quickly than the ground. The ground is going to be this huge mass that's going to help retain heat when it gets sunshine. These rocks and this retaining wall, all of this concrete is helping to retain that western sun that hits this every afternoon, making sure that this stays a little bit warmer than if it were just planted out in the open. I'm going to continue to take branches, bend them down, and use the stones to be my weight. I can be really rough with fig branches. Got this, I'm just going to kind of tuck it in. Figs are asexually propagated, meaning there's no graft. This isn't like your grafted apple tree, where if you break a branch up, you risk the potentially losing your graft. Also, because there's not really much in the way of disease issue with figs, a broken branch doesn't invite disease like it does with so many of the other common fruits. Once I've got a lot of my figs laid down on the ground, I can start to grab some bulk material. In my case, it's straw. Bulk material can also be leaves, it can be loose straw, it can be anything that is going to be a big old organic material blanket for your figs to help keep it insulated over the winter. So I add this big straw bale. I bury that. Now with the rest of that space, what I'm going to do is use leaves that have fallen from all around the yard, collect neighbors' bagged leaves, rake up leaves from other people's yards, whatever I need, and I'm going to heap on all that extra organic material. until I've filled in all the crevices here and made a nice heaping pile of organic matter. That is going to be enough to keep our figs from dying all the way back to the ground, and we're going to be able to get a lot of nice figs next year. So definitely encourage people to plant some figs in their yard, but choose that protected location if you're in a cold climate, which is generally zone 5, 6, or 7. If you're above zone 7, you're pretty good to just keep your figs out in the open. Even sometimes in zone 7, you might get your figs to come back all the way without protection.